I want to talk a little further about tonight's Giants-Cowboys game. Yeah, the Giants' problems definitely on the offensive line did not help. Their run blocking skills were terrible. Didn't open up lanes for Mod Bradshaw. There were the case of the dropsies from some of Manning's receivers.
Yeah, specifically Victor Cruz, who dropped 3 passes, and a lot of people were surprised by the number of drops he's had. He's dropped passes before. I think he dropped about 15 or 20 passes last year, and that last year was a career year for him.
Yeah, he was the guy who set the franchise record for receiving yards with over 1,530 receiving yards. Talk about a storybook year for a guy from New Jersey and all that.
Yep, guy who was undrafted coming out of the University of Massachusetts, Jerry Reese, who just goes to show you how underrated of a general manager Jerry Reese is. He was the one that took a chance on Victor Cruz, who made all of those brilliant low-round draft picks, guys like Jaquan Williams and several others. And he was the one who was instrumental in getting Cruz his big shot. And Cruz came up big time last year. One thing that we failed to mention, Dominic Hickson is back healthy again after multiple knee surgeries. Wound up playing a little bit. Look for Dominic Hickson to really get more of a role in the receiver slot, because after Hickson and Victor Cruz and Hakeem Nicks, the Giants seem to be a little bit thin at the receiver spot. Keep in mind, Mario Manningham is now a San Francisco 49er.
But you know what? See Ramses Barton and Drell Jernigan this year in the receiver spot. I think they may surprise you next week or in week 3, but somewhere down the line, those two guys are definitely going to be two people to look out for in that receiving core.
Yeah, Barton is exactly what a lot of teams covet, a tall, strong receiver who can expose a secondary with his height.
And also another guy that we have failed to mention was the second-round draft pick they got out of LSU, Ruben Randall.
Exactly right.
You know, another guy that will add some depth to that receiving core too this year. And another Jersey undrafted player that was in the game last night, Miles Austin from the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, grew up not too far from the shore, attended Monmouth University, and wound up having a huge game last night. And once again, this time, Tony Romo actually came up in the clutch in a big game.
Yeah, he got a huge, what was it, a 30-yard touchdown.
30-yard touchdown to Austin, and then there was that big third down, which wound up sealing the game at the end. And his throws were crisp. He moved his feet well. He was able to elude the pass rush. He always was blessed with really good feet. That's what separates him from a lot of the quarterbacks in this league, the ability to make plays with his feet. It was just a matter of him making the right reads and the right throws, and last night he was able to do that. This could be the start of a very important stretch for the Cowboys, because after this, they've got the Seahawks, they have a big game with the Bears, and they also have the Ravens the first quarter of the season. This is their chance to possibly go either 3-1 or 2-2 here.
I'm thinking 3-1 before the bye.
And that Bears game is in Cowboy Stadium, so the Cowboys are going to have a huge advantage there.
Oh, without a doubt. And they're going to the 12th man in 10 days from now. I think they're going to win that game. It's going to be interesting how they play against that defense. But anyway, another thing to look at in that game was the fact that Tony Romo only got sacked twice by Linval Joseph and Rocky Bernard, as opposed to Manning, who got sacked 3 times, 2 of them by DeMarcus Ware, the freak of nature linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys, who reached last night 100 career sacks.
Just goes to show you the difference in offensive lines right there. Both of the Cowboys and the Giants had very, very questionable front 5 units offensively, but this time it was the Cowboys that were able to come up big, and the Giants, who only have David Deal and I think Kareem McKenzie back from their previous units, multiple Super Bowls.
No, Kareem McKenzie actually didn't even re-sign with the Giants' offensive line. But the left side did a good job last night. The right side is where they allowed most of the sacks last night. At least all 3 of the Dallas Cowboys sacks came from the right side of the offensive line. Which
so only David Deal is back from the teams that won
Oh, you
two of
got
the last 4 Super Bowls.
you got Chris Nee as well. That's also there.
Chris Snee also.
Will Beatty, unfortunately, did not play last night, but his replacement did a pretty good job. So they definitely need to work on some of their issues with the offensive line, especially the run blocking. They need to open up holes. The running game needs to do a better job. David Wilson, granted this was your first game, you got to learn to control the ball in your hands and do a better job.
Although in his defense, I really didn't like the way the Giants treated him after he fumbled in his first NFL carry. He wound up getting benched the rest of the game.
Maybe it's to show him, you know what, you can't play like this in the league. If you want to be a running back in this league, you have to learn to control the ball. So maybe this will kind of like get through to him. I won't do that again next week when we have to play Tampa Bay. That I won't end up like LeGarrette Blount. Who also has issues controlling the ball himself. But I have to say though that the Dallas Cowboys, you know what, they had a lot of pressure coming into this game last night. They ended up proving the critics wrong, for just tonight. But who knows what's going to happen the rest of the way? And for the Giants, just remember this. Last year, they lost the Washington Redskins in the season opener, and they ended up winning a Super Bowl. So don't worry, Big Ben. This is not the end for the Giants. There's more good things to come their way, and they're going to beat Tampa Bay next week.
Well, there seems to be a problem that the Giants have with the Cowboys, especially in NFL regular season openers. The Cowboys have won all 6 such meetings with the Giants. And speaking of guys not playing, you mentioned that before. Prince Amukamara got hurt again, and he wound up missing the rest of the game. Who knows what his status is going to be for Tampa?
I think he's going to be back next week. But Michael Coe last night had a hamstring injury, and because of that, he was sidelined for the second half. His availability is questionable. Him and Corey Webster have to do a better job in that secondary, especially since it's depleted. Those two need to be strong. Antrell and Kenny Phillips, you know what? I think they did a pretty good job as well for their positions. The linebacking core, definitely good. Jason Pierre-Paul was able to get a few tackles, but no sacks last night.
Although I was a little worried about that line getting scorched for 140 yards on the ground by DeMarco Murray. I think they need to make a couple of adjustments here.
And also another thing, too, Justin missing that huge tackle on DeMarco Murray. When he got that 40-yard play.
That was a really, really painful play right there. Plain and simple, it's all a matter of technique. He's got to do a better job of wrapping his arms around the ball carrier.
Well, now we're going to stop talking about the Dallas Cowboys, New York Giants season opener, and we're going to get into some of the other games of this first week of the NFL season. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Denver Broncos. What do you think about that game?
The best game of Sunday. Well, one of the 2 best games that Sunday, that right up there with 49ers and Packers, which we're going to be discussing in a little bit. And, of course, when you think of Steelers-Broncos, you think of Peyton Manning making his debut in a Broncos uniform, going up against a Super Bowl winning quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger. Some people are saying that this may be the Steelers' last shot at possibly winning another title. They've got a lot of significantly older. Roethlisberger just turned 30. Troy Polamalu is in his early 30s. They've got several guys that are in their 30s that may be on their last legs. It's crucial for the Steelers to get off to a good start in this game.
And how about the beard, Brett Keisel? He's getting there in age as well. You got players like Casey Hampton, who's another old-timer on the team. This year, the Steelers, they don't have James Ferrier anymore.
Yeah.
Hines Ward retired. Brian McFadden's not there. William Gay went to Arizona. So they got a new cornerback tandem with Keenan Lewis and, of course, Ike Taylor together on the opposing side. Ryan Clark, unfortunately, will not play again for the second straight game. As you know, the last time these two teams played was in the AFC wildcard game where the Broncos defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 29-23 in that game. And that was on the 80-yard touchdown catch from Demaryius Thomas from Tim Tebow.
Yeah, one of the very, very, very few good throws that Tim Tebow has made in an NFL game. I want to see what our offensive line can do this time because Ben Roethlisberger pretty much ate the grass the majority of the time last season, getting sacked more than 40 times for the whole season. Let's see what this offensive line can do against a very, very sound Denver defense.
Unfortunately, David DeCastro, the kid they drafted from Stanford in the third game of the preseason, Buffalo, tore his MCL and ACL. He's out for the entire year. Mike Adams, the other kid they drafted, has a knee injury too.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think Elvis Dumerville a good lineman wound up having major problems with the law, specifically gun possession.
Oh yeah, aggravated assault. But yet he was actually named one of the 6 captains of the Denver Broncos team after Brian Dawkins retired. So he's right there. And that's another thing about the Broncos, dude. No more Dawkins this year in the secondary, but you still got Champ Bailey, you got Tracy Porter right there, the 2 corners. Of course, Tracy Porter coming from New Orleans this year.
And Bailey, of course, a contestant All-Pro.
Oh yeah, he's a great All-Pro cornerback right there for them. And the thing about Pittsburgh and their offensive line, it's the age. It's also the injury issues. Mike Pouncey, this year he'll be at center, but he's injury prone as well. He needs to stay healthy this year. They need to be able to protect Roethlisberger. This is a new offensive scheme, as you know, because Bruce Arians left Pittsburgh to go work in Indianapolis. So they got Todd Haley, the guy who got fired from being the Kansas City coach last year. So let's see how that works out. And on the defensive side, like I said, you want to talk about injury, James Harrison right there.
Yeah, out because of injury. It's going to be a huge loss for the Steelers right there. As controversial a player as he's been because of the many vicious hits that he's made, he's also a big part of their defensive front. So let's see who's going to make up for his loss right there.
But another thing to look at, too, is Mike Wallace. The fact that he held out for almost the entire OTA sessions and the preseason, didn't come back till August 28th. And let's see what he can do. If you look at his, I have his numbers from last year. Yeah, written down here. He had over 1,100. Yeah, he almost had 1,200 yards last year on 72 receptions. And this is a guy that they can't afford to have hurt this year. He needs to do a good job. He needs to, gel with the other receivers like Antonio Brown and, of course, Emmanuel Sanders. But the emphasis of Haley's system is the running game. Isaac Redman will probably be the lead runner this. Rashard Mendenhall has ACL injury concerns. You also have to look for some of the other running backs. They have like Jonathan Dyer, who they drafted. You got Chris Rainey, the kid from Florida, who's going to be there on special teams. And Baron Batch, another kid. So a lot of things to look for in Pittsburgh in the black and gold this year. They're always contenders. They came in second last year. We're a wild card team. I'm talking too much about Pittsburgh, but Denver, Peyton Manning.
Yep. The guy who's going to be the new straw that stirs the Denver right there. Let's see if he can actually keep himself upright after missing all of last year because of his neck surgery.
And another thing to look for in Denver is the defensive front three. When you got Joe Mays, Elvis Dumervil, and, of course, the last year's AP Defensive Rookie of the Year, Von Miller. Let's see how those three do well on the front line and the corners. And not only that, let's see how Peyton Manning gels with the receivers like Demaryius Thomas and Eric Decker, who he got 2 touchdowns in the preseason to. And, of course, Brandon Stokely, who a familiar face from his days in Indianapolis.
Yep.
But they're not the only familiar people. There's also Jacob Tamme, tight end from Indianapolis as well, that followed him. Fortunately, Jeff Saturday didn't follow him. He went to Green Bay.
Right.
And but I think Denver's going to win this game. I give it to Denver over Pittsburgh.
I actually like Denver in this game as well.
Now we're going to get to another big game. A team going from the Bay to another Bay.
Yeah, the 49ers and the Packers right there. Second best game of the Sunday afternoon. You've got the Niners coming off a tremendous season, winning the NFC West last year. Alex Smith had a career year under head coach John Harbaugh. They're so strong, specifically at quarterback, very underrated at running back with Frank Gore. Very, very powerful defensively, especially at linebacker with Patrick Willis. And going up against a Packer team that got scorched defensively last year, in spite of the fact that they won 15 games last season. But when you think of the Packers, you think of Aaron Rodgers and also Donald Driver, a tremendous receiver for his career. This has the makings of an outstanding matchup there.
It's not even Donald Driver also. It's Jordy Nelson, who had the most...
Jordy Nelson also, yeah.
Jordy Nelson, Jermichael Finley, and Greg Jennings right there. That's where they make up their power. They are a pass-happy team. But the thing they lacked last year was the running game. They were 27th in the run game. And so this year they went and got Cedric Benson in the offseason, hoping that will improve their running game. And hopefully John Kuhn will do a little better this year as well. And you got an offensive line that has had some issues, but I think will be good this year. But the thing that really hurt Green Bay was not their offense. It was their defense.
Yeah.
They were, I think, number 32nd in total defense last
Dead
year.
last in total defense last year.
And this year they moved Charles Woodson from the corner position to free safety. They got Tremont Williams, of course, as one of their corners. And I think they also went ahead and they got Nick Perry from USC to be opposite Clay Matthews in the line core. You also have B.J. Raji, of course, the man who does, the little...
Yeah, the man that does basically...
the truffle shuffle.
Yeah, the truffle shuffle, which he made famous in that NFC title game a couple of years ago.
But, he's a really good corner. And, of course, you got to always remember the one thing about Green Bay, the champion...
Double check discount.
Oh, yeah. We'll get the Allstate commercials, if there's any more than this year. But San Francisco, talking about... I want to them a bit, and... It's just not. It's not even Grant Gore. You got Kendall Hunter, who's pretty good, not too bad backup.
And I failed to mention Vernon Davis, a very, very good tight end.
Amazing tight end. Had a career year last year. Had over, I think, what was it, 1,300 yards last year. For his time, and he also made huge catches in the playoffs. He had over 230 receiving yards. I remember one of the big catches he had was the title game. And he's a really good versatile tight end. You're going to see more of him and Alex Smith working together.
Yep, and the Niners actually added a couple of ex-Giants to their offense. Brandon Jacobs in the backfield, Mario Manningham in the slot.
And not only that, how about this? You want to talk about another return to football this year? The return of Randy Moss after year hiatus.
Let's see if he can get his legs underneath him. He always has been a good receiver. It's just a matter of whether he really, really wants it. He doesn't always play with, as Clyde Frazier used to say, vim and vigor.
Well, it should be a good game. In the end, I'm going to give this to Green Bay. It's in Lambeau Field. It's home territory. And not only that, the thing to look at, too, in this game is the San Francisco defense that we even failed to mention. That was in tops this year. They have one of the best linebacking cores, Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis, and Alvin Smith.
Yep. And I think also Julian Peterson as well, correct?
Oh, no, that's I'm not sure if Julian Peterson's. They also got Justin Smith in their front.
Justin Smith, that's right.
Justin Smith in their defensive front, and of course Deshaun Goldson and Carlos Rogers in their secondary. So it should be a good game between the offense of the Packers and the defense of the 49ers. I'm thinking though, Packers win though.
This is what I used to call a cover your eyes and point type of game. So
we're going to go on to the Buffalo Bills against the New York Jets. Our own New York Jets against a team that spent, largely on Mario Williams, the big free agent acquisition for defensive end, as well as Mark Anderson. They spent some money on, but not as much as Mario Williams. He's now one of the highest paid defensive ends in the league.
Yep. Huge money being paid over there to add to a defense that is already considered rock solid. But when you think of the Bills, you think of